Welcome back, everybody. It is the boys on the bench, and you may be surprised to see all three of us here all back together. And what we are doing in this episode is talking a little bit of college football, talking some college football 25. The new game just dropped today, Monday, July 15th. So by the time you're seeing this video, maybe just a day or so later because of editing and getting everything up. But we'll also be talking about some of betting NFL lines and then as well some fantasy football talk. So make sure you tune in all the way through this video to catch all of everything that we are talking about. We'll see you down the road. All right, before we jump into this, guys, all I wanted to do is kind of a general check-in with my other two guys, Dalton and Nathan. Dalton, checking in with you, though. How are you doing?
Man, my fucking screen wasn't so fucking blurry, I'd be a lot better. But you know what? We're gonna make things work, and I'm just hoping that we can just give you guys a much clearer advice on what we're doing with our bet than my screen right now. But you know what? We're gonna make things work. Other than that, I'm doing perfectly well.
Yeah, your blurry screen's kind of setting me off edge a little bit too, so I'll have to get that through myself as well. But Nathan, anyways, how are you doing? Hopefully not looking at Dalton's screen. How are you doing?
Your quarter ton of fun over here is having a great time, boys.
And that's what I love. That is what I love. Football season. We are getting one more weekend closer to this football season kicking off. But as I had mentioned, though, we are really getting into this college football season that we had mentioned. And there's a couple things going on. So these college football rankings aren't necessarily brought all the way, like these aren't actual true rankings. So what I want to look at is this is all based off of the ESPN post-spring rankings. Again, these are not official. They're not going to be set official until this closer to college football season starts. But this is what ESPN ranked as their top 10 following the post-spring ball. So I believe that this was posted in May. So it has been a couple of months since this has kind of been updated. So this is kind of a loosely based list. So this is what we're going to have to kind of go off of. But looking at this list, Nathan, I kind of want your opinion on this. Both Nathan and Dalton's teams are in this. Nathan is a big Longhorns fan, saw him off. And then Dalton is a big Alabama fan. I am a Baylor fan. We are not probably even in the top 75, so we will not talk about that. We are looking at only the top 10. Nathan, though, which team do you think is in the most trouble in this top 10 list?
Probably Notre Dame. Well, I don't know. Maybe Michigan. Michigan is coming off the national championship, and they had a stellar year last year, but they lost a lot of people. They lost their head coach. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of bounce back this year, especially since like now they've added USC and UCLA into the mix and Oregon. So their schedule's going to get a lot harder this year. Also, same for Georgia. Like if you go back and you look at Georgia's schedule too, like they have a tough schedule too. They got to play Alabama, and they have to play Texas. They got to play Tennessee. So I'm excited now because Georgia won't have that easy walk schedule where they're playing, Kentucky and South Carolina and Florida. Now they have to play Alabama in the regular season, and they have to play Texas in the regular season. And if I'm not mistaken, Dalton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think when they play Alabama, it is in Tuscaloosa.
Georgia, yes, it is in Tuscaloosa.
Georgia also has to play Texas in Austin. So those are two pretty big games to play on the road in the regular season. So really, I don't see Georgia going undefeated this year. I don't. I can see them losing one game, maybe two. But also, you want to mention the top three teams that are on this ranking. Neither one of those three teams were in the playoffs last year. Not a single one. So it's interesting that ESPN came out with these early rankings with the way they did. But, yeah, I think any of these teams, with the way the schedule's set out, can easily lose 2 to 3 games. But I'm curious to see how Michigan is going to do. And I'm also curious about Penn State, too. Like, they always struggled against Ohio State, and they always struggle against Michigan. And now you add in USC, UCLA, Oregon. So it's just going to get tougher and tougher. when you go into conference plays for all these teams. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be an exciting year of college football. A lot of people are not excited about the conferences realignment and what's been going on, but I like it. It's going to force these teams like Georgia to have to play Alabama in the regular season, have to play Texas in the regular season. It's going to be an exciting year of college football, and I can't wait to watch what happens.
Yeah, my excitement is just as matched. I think a lot of people's are too, and I'm glad we're getting, like I said, this college football 25 in a little bit because it's helping alleviate some of the pain. But Michigan is kind of an interesting take. Like, I do think that obviously their schedule is going to get harder, but it's going to get harder in the sense of like Oregon being added to that Big Ten mix. I'm not concerned with USC and I'm not concerned with UCLA. I used to be one of the biggest Lincoln Riley buyers there was whenever he went from Oklahoma to USC. I don't care anymore. I think, honestly, all of that is washed up. He had Caleb Williams. He had the number 1 overall draft pick going into the NFL, and they were very mediocre last year. Like, your team arguably got worse this year, right? So because of that, I don't really know how much Michigan's schedule got harder. I would be really surprised. Even if they come in at 6, I don't really think they're going to fall outside of the top 10. You know, Georgia is a very interesting one that you were saying, though. They're one of the ones that actually do have a tougher competition because some of their hardest competition is going on the road to play a lot of these top teams, right? If UT and Alabama manage to stay top 5 by the time they come and face Georgia, they're going to have 2 games within their season on the road at top 5 schools. That's a tough road. Now, granted, I don't know if they'll ever fall outside of the top 10 either. That's just kind of my take on that.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not too worried about the SEC other than Alabama. Like for me, the only reason I'm worried about Alabama is because the conference has definitely gotten a lot tougher and a lot stronger now that they've added OU and Texas. And if looking at Texas, they have 7 returners coming to that offense. Like, and they've got Sarkisian to boot, built by Bama, baby. But then again, like Texas they are a great team. I think they're going to be great again this year. And so, like DJ, like you were saying, Georgia it has a very tough matchup this year. I am worried about them. I don't think they fall outside the top 10. If they do lose to Texas and Alabama, they're both away games for Georgia. So if they do lose those games, it's not like it's the end of the world for them, especially if they're close games. I think they stay in the top 10. They go to the playoffs. They may not compete for the SEC championship, but they'll be fine. However, I'm going to take more of Nathan's side, and I'm going to disagree with you, DJ, though. However, for Michigan, that is the one I am concerned with the most. And I actually think they will miss the top 12 top 12 teams. They only have 1 returning starter on their offense, and they only have 4 returning starters on their defense. They have done decently well when it's come to recruiting, but they are going to have to develop and rebuild this program under a new coaching staff. With Jim Harbaugh being gone, this is a big deal to them. I think this is where Ryan Day and Ohio State can finally come up and Penn State as well. They have an opportunity to overtake Michigan and take a grasp in this new conference in the Big Ten. And let's not forget, Oregon just got added as well. They're going to face them in week 9. And they're going to face, I think, Oregon coming in. I think this has a very good opportunity for Oregon to come in day 1, first year, and compete for a Big Ten championship with Ohio State. I think Ohio State and Oregon are both much better teams than Michigan is right now. They're going to face Texas week 2 to begin the season, who has, like I said, 7 returners on that offense. So they're going to look very similar to what they were last year. Oregon in week 9, and then they're going to finish off the season with Ohio State week 12, and it's going to be on the road versus Ohio State. So, like I said, if they face Texas and they lose to Texas to begin, and then they are to lose to a very good Oregon team, and then they go to Ohio State with 2 losses to end the season, that's a tough game. And you guys know how it is in college football to lose a game late. Ohio State is probably going to be the toughest matchup they're going to face in that season at week 12 on the road. So I just feel like that they have a really good chance. If they lose those 2 games and then lose on the road to Ohio State, especially big, they will miss the top 12, and they're going to miss out on the first top 12 2024 playoffs. So I think this is going to be Oregon and Ohio State running the show this year in the Big Ten, and I think Michigan's in danger. So
It's going to be interesting to see how Oregon transfers over into the Big Ten. Like if you watch the Pac-12 last year, there wasn't much defense in that conference. It was you go back and you watch the Colorado and the USC game. It was just like 400 or 500 passing yards, high scoring games. It was all it's a high powered offensive conference. And then you're going to come into the Big Ten where you have schools like Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan who play good defense, Iowa who plays good defense. So really, it's anything can really happen too. It's just I think it's gonna nobody really knows right with this conference realignment. Like it's really just up in the air. It's like Dalton said, who's playing the best football come the last 3 weeks of the season. It's really what it is, and you're gonna really find out how good of a football team Michigan is come week 2 when they have to play Texas because. Like Dalton said, we have a lot of people coming back on our offense, and we have some good people still coming back on our defense. So Texas is going to be even better than they were last year. So that's what I'm excited for. But just college football in general, it's going to be. I think it's going to be great weeks every week with great matchups. It's going to be fun year of college football with new teams and new conferences and the way that the matchups are going to fall. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. And I did want to kind of loop back. I'm not saying that Michigan isn't kind of a team in trouble. I do agree that they're in a team in trouble. I do think it's kind of like I think they're the ones that's probably the most volatile just because of the amount of change, and we're ready to see kind of how that change plays out. So looking at here, I think the top 5 is pretty solid. Alabama is probably the one that I worry about the most in the top 5, but it's for all of the same reasons that I think I'm worried about Michigan as well because of all of the change. What are we to expect? At least Alabama still has Jalen Milroe. Like, I know that they always send a lot of people to the draft year to year. They do a really good job of getting recruits and everybody else coming back. But this is now year 1 of post Saban era, right? Like what exactly does that look like? Again, I don't know necessarily how Alabama's going to be. I do see them possibly sometime this year falling outside of the top 10. But I still think that they're going to probably find themselves in a college football playoff position. Just don't know where that's at. But I think it's safe to say that at some point throughout this year, they're bound to fall outside of that top 10 spot, right?
Alabama is going to be it's not, don't get this wrong, and people might think that we're just hating on Alabama because Dalton's on here. That is not true. Alabama is a fantastic football team, and they have a fantastic program. The only thing with Alabama is that Nick Saban, the way he coached the defensive side of the football in Alabama, and the way that his players played for him, is it was incredible. The way he was able to make coaching changes, the way he was to outsmart other coaches, the way he was be able to make changes on the fly, the way he was be able to do it in the fourth quarter, the way that's what Alabama's going to miss. So I think when you have if Alabama's in closer games like that, every year they're playing a couple of close games and they get that factor and they get that win because of Nick Saban and his coaching ability and he's been in it for so long, he's been in the game for so long. He's like, hey, like look for this, watch this, do this, expect this, and Saban's just so good at that. And I think if Alabama loses the game, it'll be because of that. It's like you said, it's not because they're not talented enough to beat that team. It's just the factor of Nick Saban. You have to take that into consideration. And I think it'll take a year or two to get back to that, or to DeBoer maybe being like that, but you can't compare DeBoer to Nick Saban because Nick Saban is one of the greatest college football coaches to ever walk the planet. So,
No, 100%. I mean, you guys are absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of things to be worried about. I mean, actually, there's really not a lot of things to be worried about. I would just say it's just Nick Saban being gone is really the only thing to worry about. And, and most people be like, well, he's gone. Like, you guys aren't going to be the same. Well, to Alabama's defense, I would just say that I think this Alabama team is much better than the Washington team that Kalen DeBoer had last year. And we've seen what Kalen DeBoer did, taking his team to the national championship, and beating Texas. He's done it and getting to where he's at. Like, I just think he's going to be okay. And the recruits he's bringing in, it's like we've never skipped a beat. Alabama has probably actually done better recruiting this year and for 2025. We're currently ranked number 1 in 2025 recruiting in 5 stars and 4 stars than Nick Saban has ever done. So he's actually, when it comes to recruiting, I mean, he is off the record books for us. And so I think he does bring in that talent. It's just like DJ, you said, can he actually replicate that to the game like Nick Saban always has? I don't know, but let's not forget that Nick Saban is still on the advisory there for Kalen DeBoer. He's still on campus and he is there to support Kalen DeBoer. So he is still there. Now, I think that has also helped us when it's come to the recruiting because he's still on campus. But I think that Kalen DeBoer has such a strong foundation and the coaches he's brought around him with Shepard, the wide receiver coach, and the experience he has in recruiting, Coach Womack out of Southern Alabama, South Alabama. I mean, and things he's accomplished. I mean, these are some coaches that probably haven't necessarily done it at the biggest level yet, but we've seen what Kalen DeBoer's been able to do and the coaching staff he's been able to work with and the success he's had. So I'm not worried at all. Like I said, it's unfortunate Nick Saban's gone, but he's still technically there. So again, I think he's got all the answers he needs. I think he's going to get all the any type of coaching experience that he needs to pull from Nick Saban and get from his head. I think he'll get that. Nick Saban's going to willingly give it to him. So again, I would still expect Alabama to be there in the top 5. I don't expect them to actually get even close to outside the top 10. So I would expect them to stay in the top 5 all year. I think they're going to be just fine.
That's a bold take. I don't agree with you, but I get it as an Alabama fan. You're the one that keeps up more on Alabama news than I do. Now, I do think that, like you were saying, though, to the Nick Saban point, I think that was mainly just for recruiting purposes. I think that he is there for DeBoer on any type of how to handle Alabama culture, coming in to the South, what does that look like? I know DeBoer's had a little bit, he's kind of bounced around from career to career, but he's been in Washington and what does it look like here? Kind of helping him kind of adapt well and helping him with the recruiting. I think that that's kind of what that was for. I'm not knocking the idea at all. If you can keep Nick Saban around on by any means, let's do it 100%. But the team that I was most interested about, and I'm curious to y'all's take as well, but is LSU. That's the team that I think is at probably in the most trouble here. Obviously, they're number 9 on the list. They're closer towards the bottom. It's obviously probably one of the safer picks on this list. But the reason that I'm so concerned is the level of talent that they've just lost to the NFL draft, right? Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. Those are all top caliber guys that now they're left to replace with. And I understand that they're having big veteran guys being able to come in and obviously that's kind of the name of the game with college football is next guy up mentality. But I think that those are such elite level players that they're going to struggle greatly. They are still in the SEC. That is a loaded schedule for them. I think that what does help them on their schedule is, like we're saying, it kind of comes down to the back end of that schedule. They can afford to lose a couple games up front, but it's the back end of their schedule, how it plays out. And their back end of their schedule, I had it just up just here a second ago, but I know that they end it going Florida, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. Those are kind of the bottomer team, worst teams on the SEC side of things. So they do have the benefit of their schedule working out for them, going Florida, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma.
Look, you're right, and I don't think LSU will finish in the top 10. I don't think they'll make the playoffs at all. Their defense was, even with the talent they had last year, their defense was terrible. It was a bad defense. That's not the LSU style of defense that you're used to seeing, and I just don't think. I think they'll be out of the top 10 by week 4 or 5.
Yeah, and that, again, like I said, their schedule is definitely front loaded. That's where a lot of it is. So it's safe to say, all it takes is for them to play a close game versus a decent team, and we could see them definitely fall outside of the top 10. But I don't think it's a bold take either. I don't think it's a hot take to say that LSU isn't going to wind up in a college football playoff spot. I don't know if they're a top 12 team. I really don't think that they are, unless these guys truly step up. But truly, I really don't think so, looking at how really packed a lot of these teams really are. So
I'll tell you one other thing too before we move on is I never, ever, ever, ever trust a Notre Dame football team. Never.
So you're worried about Notre Dame as well?
I think everybody's worried about Notre Dame. I won't even say worried because it's used to it by now, but every time they get put in the playoffs, they get fucking stomped, dude. And it's because they're non-conference. You need to join a fucking conference. That's what you need to do, Notre Dame. Get off your damn high horse and join a conference, because nobody trusts you. The committee doesn't trust you, and every time they've trusted you, you've gone to the playoffs and gotten steamrolled. So I won't ever trust a Notre Dame football team ever again until I see some things change. And the fact that they can just handpick their schedule and then throw in a Duke and be like, well, we beat Duke, and like, well, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that is the thing. I do agree. Like, I don't love the idea of non-conference, but I do love the idea of kind of being able to build your own schedule, not being forced to play these same exact opponents over and over. But with that, it also needs to be done with fidelity. They don't just need to pick, 1 to 2 opponents and say like, hey, well, we did our due diligence. And it's like, no, that's not the case at all. So, and that's why I think that we see this problem with Notre Dame on a much consistent basis. It's just because, by the time they get to these top games, this is their highest level of competition that they've faced up to this point. That's not Georgia's highest level of competition. That's not Alabama's highest level of competition, but it is Notre Dame's highest level of competition, and it's their first true test. So it's like, yeah, looking at their schedule, they have A&M to begin the season, but we don't even really know what this A&M program looks like. I don't have the full faith.
I could tell you, it's a fucking cult over there.
Right.
The place is a fucking cult.
That's what that is. Join a conference. I just don't understand.
And every year, A&M's like, this is our year, and you go fucking 8-4 every year. So shut the fuck up.
But Nathan, I think that you and your little Longhorns here have said a lot of the same things. That's a bold take coming from a Cowboys fan as well.
Hey, no. Fuck off.
Anyways, though, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing that we have for y'all. So no longer talking about these college football rankings, but we are still talking about college football, looking at the teams with 90-plus overall ratings in college football 25. Now, looking at this, Dalton, I'm going to kick it to you first. Which college football 25 team do you think is the best? Currently, Georgia has the best overall rating at a 95 overall team rating. Does that mean that they're the best, though? Is this the last person that you want to face?
Look, there's a lot of things I can disagree with, but, Georgia obviously is a very good team. I think they've lost a lot of good talent to the NFL, but I think they've got some of that talent to tout it. For instance, Carson Beck. Why is he so high? I just feel like he's nothing more than just a game manager on the field for Georgia. I feel like he's surrounded by such great talent that it just makes him look amazing. I just feel like outside of his arm, he's just one-dimensional. I think they have a couple, I just feel like he's just way too high on there. I don't know. I think for me, obviously, it's Bama, and I say that only because, I am biased and I am a Bama fan, but with Justice Haynes, a 4-star running back you got there, and then you've got Jalen Milroe, who's multidimensional, and they don't even have him, what is it? I think they have him ranked 71, the 71st player or 72nd player on the game. Oh, I'm like, come on, there's no way. I mean, he's just too good. I don't know. I think Kalen DeBoer and Nick Saban being out of there and people just knocking Alabama, you too, EA, I don't care. But whatever. I think for me, just being able to play as Bama, I think they just are loaded with talent. The defense is still great there with Malachi Moore there in the secondary and everything else that they've got around that defense. I think overall they're a pretty studded team, but like everyone else on that list, they are all pretty well studded. I don't necessarily agree with Clemson. I'm not sure why they're even on the list, but whatever. I guess that's just a topic of discussion for them to maybe just to create. So I don't know, but yeah, for me it's Bama.
And I can see why you took that too. But even looking at, I'm assuming that I'm playing each one of these teams at their home location. That anytime I play them, I'm playing them on the road. Alabama is the team. So college football went ahead and they listed out their own rankings as the toughest places to play. Texas A&M was number 1. Kyle Field was number 1, the hardest stadium to play at on college football 25.
I would agree with that.
I would agree.
As much as I hate Texas A&M, that fan base shows up and they're fucking rowdy.
Right.
Even their baseball, dude. Good lord.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't knock that fan base. They're for sure there. But coming in at number 2, Alabama. Alabama is listed. So on this list of these top 8 teams, the only 8 teams with 90-plus overall ratings, they have Bryant-Denny as the second hardest stadium to play at in college football 25. So that makes this Alabama team very difficult to play. Like you're saying, even that quarterback in Jalen Milroe, like he's got a different aspect to his game. He's not only a passer, like he's an elite level rusher as well. So you break him out, like that's like Lamar Jackson, right? You facing him in Madden, that's tough. It's always that aspect of the game that you have to be cautious of and be careful of as well. So,
well, that's the thing too. It's just the user, what you could do with that quarterback. I mean, you could always take your running back and use him as another additional blocker, and that's what makes that dangerous in this game. I mean, you add in the option as well. I mean, I just think, like you said, having a multi-dimensional quarterback, in a game like this makes it very tough. Regardless of how far he falls down in the rankings, just being able to use a quarterback like Jalen Milroe is just phenomenal. So,
Nathan, who do you think is the best, though? Curious.
Dude, come on, Texas, dude.
Come on.
No, okay. If we're like you mentioned, if you're bringing up the toughest places to play, as a Texas fan, you can't tell me Bryant-Denny is the second hardest place to play.
Where are they ranked at? Does it have Texas on the list?
One, Texas went in there and beat the shit out of them by 10 points. Okay. Two, if I'm an away coach, I would much rather go on the road and play Alabama than go on the road and play Death Valley at LSU.
Death Valley came in at 3.
They are tough. Death Valley's historically been tough. So is the
That's
Swamp.
what I'm saying.
Where's Florida?
The swamp at night though. They said you got to watch out for the swamp at night. But on here, if I'm looking at these teams that you have on our screen right now, what team is the best team in college football based on roster depth, people who are starting? I would love to say Texas. I think it's Ohio State.
I like that.
Fair enough.
And that's
as being a Texas fan, I would love to say Texas. I think the Longhorns are one of the top 3 best college football teams because of the people that are bringing back this year. And we also have Sarkisian's one of the greatest play callers in college football. But if we're talking about the best roster in all of college football, I believe that would be the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Speaking of that, dude, when I got the game and you open those packages, you get when you get the starter pack and whatnot and all that, right? I got Caleb Downs. I had him as an option. I still chose him, but boy, I struggled. I struggled to take him just because he left us. I don't know, man. I had to. He's just a talent that. But Nathan, you're right. Ohio State, they are just absolutely loaded on both sides of the ball.
It's insane.
It is
at the depth that they have, and like I wanted to say Texas too because they stole Isaiah Bond from Alabama, but I'm going to agree with Dalton too on the Georgia thing. Carson. I watched some of Georgia's games last year, and Carson Beck is overrated, dude.
Absolutely. 100%.
He is not. They almost lost games because of him. Your quarterback is not supposed to do that. You look at difference makers. Jalen Milroe struggled first couple of games at Alabama. He struggled. He had a problem with inconsistency. He was so inconsistent, but he turned it around, and Alabama was a better football team because he turned it around. Quinn Ewers, really good, super consistent. Texas was a good football team. Offense was efficient because of how good Quinn Ewers is. Bo Nix at Oregon played a lot of football. The team was efficient. They were able to move the ball well. Like it's stuff like that. Like Jaden Daniels, the LSU offense was really good last year. Their defense was bad, but their offense was still good. I didn't see the great play like I saw out of Ewers, Nix, Jaden Daniels, Milroe. I didn't see that from Carson Beck. I saw inconsistency from Carson Beck all year, and he struggled in games, and they almost lost games because of that. And I don't think that is a top player in college football. And also, I'm agreeing with Dalton is why the fuck is Clemson on this list?
No, I honestly, that is the team I think that most surprised me and most surprised a lot of people. Because I don't even think are they
4 games? I think they lost either 3 or 4 games last year.
I don't
and one of them, you got fucking steamrolled by Duke.
Well, and look at their schedule, their strength of schedule. I mean, any game they did win can't even be compared to half these teams on here.
I don't know why Clemson's on this list.
Yeah, that is kind of the outlier team for me as well. Like it's the one that I truly don't understand. But Nathan, I want to kind of go back to what you were originally talking about there as well. But it's Ohio State. I think we can all agree that, and that's the team that I was going to pick. I think that that's the team that I don't want to face the most. And it's, Carson Beck. I think that probably once they start to realize how much of a system quarterback he is, how they always do roster updates on these games. They'll bump rankings up. They'll move rankings down, right? And that's just going to be kind of how it is, because I don't think that Carson Beck is worthy of that 93 overall rating that he has, which is tied for quarterback 1 in all of college football 25, which is absolutely crazy to me. I think he is a system quarterback. That's all you need to be. Like, look at Stetson Bennett, right? What did he need to do? And
Georgia
people
just has great athletes around.
Right,
them.
and
that's what it is.
And that is exactly what it is. And then you see these players get drafted, like from Alabama and from Georgia to the NFL as quarterbacks. And what do? They don't do a whole lot, but that's because they have a studded O-line, they have studded wide receiver cores, studded running backs. Like, you get to the NFL, you're on a much level playing field. So I don't know. I don't.
I'll give Alabama the running backs. I'll give them that. Them motherfuckers breeding them the sons of bitches over there.
Right.
Got a running back farm over there, man.
Grief, but their quarterbacks in the NFL are fucking garbage, except for Tua.
Yeah. So anyways, though, let's go ahead and move on from here. Last thing I wanted to mention, Nathan, our two teams, though. You kind of brought up Notre Dame. I brought up LSU from the segment before. They're on this list as the top teams in college football 25, Notre Dame, LSU.
Of course they're going to put Notre Dame 90+ overall because they don't fucking play anybody through the year. So you go through the whole year, and yeah, they look like they're a 90+ overall team. But when you're Clemson and you open up week 1 to Duke, you get fucking steamrolled. Why are you on? And you lose, 3 games? Why are you on this fucking list?
So who would we boot from the list, Notre Dame or Clemson?
Well, if
Clemson.
Clemson.
That's what I'm
sure.
saying. Clemson for sure.
Notre Dame will look like a better football team.
Because
look like a better football team throughout the season.
Yeah, and I was looking back at that list of the ESPN post-spring rankings. Clemson comes in at number 14, but they're not even the first team in the ACC listed. Like,
they lost to Miami, and Miami lost to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that's the ACC though. Like, nobody can make their minds up. And I feel out to Florida State fans across the world. I'm so sorry. Hopefully you have better luck this year. It's a 12 team playoffs, but anyways.
They did y'all dirty.
I think some people at EA need to take a drug test based on what we've seen here and where they got Jalen Milroe. They do my man dirty.
The Clemson thing is the most shock to me.
Yeah. Somebody needs to get fired.
And the last thing that I also wanted to bring up, because Dalton had asked the question about where is UT ranked on their stadiums. UT is ranked number 19 in the toughest stadiums to play in college football 25.
Nathan, is that hot topic or what? Do you agree with that?
No, I mean that's not 19's not bad, but
It's not. That's still high.
It's loud there. It's loud, and it's energetic.
I tell you what, it wasn't fun to be at when we only won by 1 point.
Yeah. Ask Dalton. Yeah,
That was not fun. That was a tough
Dalton
stadium
how
to
it
be
was.
in as a fan for sure. I did not enjoy it. I'll never go back to Texas.
Yeah, no, I mean, I live in this area. I live in the UT area. I'm not a fan, though, but I live in this area, and I just went to watch a UT Iowa State game, and, UT blew the brakes off of Iowa State. But, I mean, their fan base is rowdy. I mean, they showing up and showing out. So, they do have a tough stadium, but I haven't been to a lot of these stadiums before, so we're going to kind of go off of this list. UT falls all the way down to 19. It's a good spot to be, though. You can only kind of go up from there, I feel like, if you continue this dominance within college football.
And I think anywhere you really go, it's going to be a tough environment to play. Like Texas is still very tough environment to go to and play. But something about Death Valley, dude. I don't know what. And I'm talking about LSU. I'm not talking about fucking Clemson. That's a wannabe Death Valley. I'm talking about the real Death Valley. So there's something about going to Death Valley that just fucking doesn't seem right. Or Tennessee too.
So Clemson and Tennessee. So I'm sorry to bring up Clemson, and we'll move on from this. We can talk about college football rankings maybe another day. But Clemson comes in at number 12. Tennessee comes in at number 13. So
I'd much rather go to Clemson and play than go to Tennessee. I feel like Tennessee fans just get fucking nuts.
Something about that SEC and that South. But anyways, though, that's enough about college football and college football 25. Now we are kind of shifting gears into the NFL and kind of a little bit about betting. So, with that said, what we are doing is we are going to be predicting the AFC North records. The teams in the AFC North: Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals. So what we'll do is we'll kind of go down these week by week, starting at week 1 for the Baltimore Ravens. All three of us, I will list it off. So week 1, Baltimore Ravens at Kansas City. I will say whether win or loss, then we'll go Nathan, then we'll go Dalton. Don't necessarily need a brief explanation. We'll just say majority governs, right? So we either say win, loss, win, whatever. If 2 wins, then that means they get a win for it. Over under for Baltimore this season, set at 11.5. You can find that on FanDuel currently. That is what this line is currently at, is 11.5. That's kind of what we're going to be predicting looking at this. So let's go ahead and start this off. Kansas City. They're at Arrowhead Stadium. I say win.
Win.
Okay, so they're taking it on the road at Kansas City. We saw Kansas City struggled a little bit last year.
They're not taking it, baby. They're giving it.
Right.
They're gonna win it.
We saw them. They're
just real quick before we move on. Like, look at the first 5 games. Like, that's a tough 5 games.
It is. At least they get a break. So like you're saying, like, yeah, at Kansas City, at Dallas, at Cincinnati, at least they get the break with Las Vegas, fresh after Kansas City.
But Nathan, look at those next 5, dude. Like, there ain't nobody.
I know.
Yeah, and then even the bottom 4 after their bye week. Anyways, though, we're at 1 win. Looking at Las Vegas, win. Okay, so they're 2-0. Now they're going game 3, traveling to Dallas, AT&T Stadium. I'm going to say loss, as much as I don't want to see it. Baltimore.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because it's in Dallas. Oh, you know what? You hold a gun to my head, and I'm going to say it's a win.
Okay, Nathan.
I'm going to go loss. That's a hard place to go in and play. I mean, whether you're a Cowboys fan or not, the Dallas Cowboys home record at home is incredible. I think Dallas's defense has been extremely well, other than the damn Packers game in the playoffs. But I think the way you beat the Ravens is you kind of spy Lamar Jackson and make him throw the football. And I think Dallas has the defense to do that. I think they got some quick outside guys to be able to do that. And it's just, Dallas is just a hard place to go into and play. I think this is where they get their first loss of the season.
It is going to be tough because I feel like this is actually going to be a true test for that Dallas defense. I know Dallas defense was a top 3, I believe, defense last year.
Until we played y'all.
Right. That's Jordan Love effect. And that's
that was Aaron Jones. God dang.
No, that's Jordan. That was Jordan Love show,
let's just
baby.
Say it's the quarterback effect.
Dude just turned in. Yeah, no shit. Dude just turned into Barry Sanders.
You hate us?
Aaron Jones did.
Because you
didn't play
us.
all year. Didn't play all year, and then comes into Dallas. Like, fuck.
But I think that'll be a true test. I think that Dallas defense is going to be pretty tough as well. So I am going to say Dallas gets the win. I think that this is going to be Baltimore's first like true test versus a quality offense, quality defense. And I think that really Dallas just has that more high-powered offense at this moment. So right now I'm going to say we have a loss going there. So right now, 3 games in, Baltimore is currently 2-1. Then after Dallas, week 4, they are going home versus Buffalo. This Buffalo team is looking vastly different. Wide receiver core is very different than what it is last year. I think that Baltimore is going to control this game the way that their offense is, the way that they run, their style of offense. I'm giving them a win.
Yep. I'm going to give them a win here as well. Like you said, Buffalo's depleted on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't know if, Allen and James Cook could come in here and take control of it. I just think this is a very tough Baltimore's team, especially at home. I just don't see it happening. So I'm gonna say it's a win here for Baltimore.
I'm going win.
Okay. So now they're 3-1, 4 weeks in. Week 5, they travel to Cincinnati. Dalton, what do you think?
For this one, I'm gonna say in Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati wins this one. I think they win the first matchup. I just playing in Cincinnati, they are a tough team to play at home, as is anyone mostly is. But I think that this is going to be a very tough AFC North matchup. Divisional, I think it's going to come down between these two teams, and I think Cincinnati squeaks one out.
Okay, Nathan.
I think it really depends on the state of Joe Burrow, but you know how I am. Y'all know what I believe in. I think it's hard to beat the same team twice in one season, um, especially teams that are really good and also contend to be the AFC North Championship. I'm going to go ahead and give the loss here. This is where I'm going to do my split, but I'm going to give them the loss here. I think Cincinnati will win this game.
I do,
especially since they're at home.
I was about to say, and I think we can all kind of agree on that. Like I think that series is going to be split. I don't think that either team in this series, in this rivalry, is going to win both games. And I'm leaning more towards, obviously, the home team is the favorite in that, and that's who I'm going to give it to. So I do agree that this one is going to be a loss for them. It's a tough rivalry. Cincinnati always plays very well versus this Baltimore team. So because of that, them at home, they have the advantage, obviously home field advantage. So I will say loss. So 5 weeks in, we're looking at 3-2. Then they travel to Washington. This Washington team is looking very different than last year. They got the rookie Jaden Daniels. They added Austin Eckler. They still have a pretty tough defense. I know that they've got, their tough D-line. They've added in the secondary. I still don't think that was enough to stop this Baltimore team, so I'm giving Baltimore the win.
Yeah, I think I'm still going Baltimore win for this one as well for Washington. I'm probably this week is probably going to be some big cash money. I'm putting everything on the money line.
I'm going to go ahead and give them a win. I think Washington's making the moves in the right direction, but they're just not there yet. So give me the Ravens with the win here.
All right. So now we've moved on 6 weeks in, 4-2. They travel to Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield's now offense. Had a pretty decent season as their starting quarterback this last year, but I think Baltimore is the much better team. I am going to give Baltimore the win here over Tampa in Tampa.
Yep, same. With Baker Mayfield, I think he's either the top 3 quarterback that week or he's the 32nd. I just don't know what you're going to get, but I'm going to err to caution and just say he's going to have a bad week this week, and I'm going to go with Baltimore.
I'm going to go with Baltimore too. It's a win for me as well.
Okay, so 7 weeks in, 5-2. Then we travel from Tampa to Cleveland, back-to-back away games. I think because of that, and they're coming off of kind of a shorter rest, they are coming off of a Monday night game in Tampa Bay, playing on a Sunday in Cleveland. So now they've had less rest, and they're traveling to play a divisional opponent in Cleveland. Very good team. Don't love it for them. I think I'm going to go ahead and give them the L on that one.
Look, I think Cleveland's a team that is struggling right now. I know they got Jerry Jeudy and they added more there. That they do have some good weapons, but I can't get on the Deshaun Watson train here. I don't trust anything there with that quarterback play, and if they're continuing to struggle, I think Baltimore's defense is way too good right now. If they can just shut down that, and then you've also got the running back. Who is that again?
Derrick Henry.
No, the running back for the Browns.
Chubb. Will Chubb be back?
Will Chubb be healthy enough, right? I don't know. He had an ACL tear just last year, and coming back from that, we know what that does to running backs. So the uncertainty there, with what I know right now, Baltimore is just a much better team. Even on a short week, I think that if their defense can just control the pass game and be decent up front, I think they'll at least pull one out, even if it's close.
I'm going to go win here. I think Cleveland has a really, really good defense. They have a great defense. I'm just not sold on the Watson train yet, like Dalton just said, Plus, I think the best years of Deshaun Watson are behind him. I think it's time to, if he gets hurt this year, doesn't do what you expect him to, you paid him a lot of money, unfortunately, without seeing him play football. So, I don't know. I'm not buying the Watson train. Plus, if he's not healthy, what are you going to do? So I'm going to go with a Ravens win here on the road at Cleveland.
All right. So y'all went 2 wins. I went with a loss. Y'all have majority, so we are going to go ahead and give them the win, making this team 6-2 through 8 weeks. Week 9, Sunday night game, Sunday kind of midday game probably, versus Denver. Home game versus Denver. I give them the win very easily.
Oh yeah, Denver's gonna smoke them. Denver's.
Coming
Fucking.
coming from a Denver fan, if you were
Coming
not
from
aware.
I was about to say, yeah. If y'all don't know that, that is a Broncos fan. So.
I am. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Baltimore. I think they're gonna clap. So I think Baltimore's gonna win, 100%.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and give Baltimore a win.
All right. So that makes them now 7-2. Then they have a Thursday night game, so definitely a short week versus the Cincinnati team. Fortunately enough, they do play the Cincinnati team, but like I said, we gave them the loss earlier versus Cincinnati. I don't think Cincinnati pulls off both games versus this Baltimore team. Because of that, they are at home now in this matchup. I will go ahead and give them the win as well.
Yeah, give me the -115 on this one. I'm taking Baltimore.
Yeah.
I'm taking Baltimore. Give me the win.
Yeah, that would probably be a pretty even line there. All right, so through 10 weeks, we are now 8-2. So their last loss that we have for them was in that Week 5 matchup when they traveled to Cincinnati, meaning that they are currently on a 5-game win streak. Will they be able to take this to a 6-game win streak versus Pittsburgh, their first matchup versus this divisional opponent? This first game is on the road in Pittsburgh. Do they win it with a little bit extra rest from their previous game on a Thursday night? My vote, yes, they do win it. What is this Pittsburgh team? I have no idea. Like, Russell Wilson is not the answer. Justin Fields, not the answer. I don't even know what the answer is right now for this team.
I'm curious to see what Mike Tomlin's going to do. He's a quarterback whisperer. He's never had a season under 10 wins. Is this going to be the first time he does it? No, I'm sorry, under 8 wins, correct?
He's never had a season under 500.
Yeah, so under 8, well, I guess 9 now.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I think, Baltimore can definitely beat them for sure at home. Like you said, the quarterback plays got me iffy. I just think my odds and where I feel comfortably is just taking Baltimore in this one. I do. I like Mike Tomlin. I truly do. I hope he is able to keep it over 500, but I just don't think it's going to be with this game.
I agree. I'm rooting for that record for him as well. I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan, but I don't think that versus his Baltimore team, hopefully you've got a couple up under your belt. So, Nathan, though, where do you going here?
I'm going to win. I just don't trust the Pittsburgh offense.
All right, so we hit the 6-game win streak, taking this on the road to Los Angeles in a Monday night matchup. So again, they get a little bit extra rest. They get that 1 day extra rest going to play in LA versus the Chargers. I'm giving them the win here as well. Don't necessarily trust this team. They lost all of their playmakers. What's left?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a running shootout between Derrick Henry and what
Gus Edwards.
Yeah, and Gus Edwards. I think this
Most
is
likely.
Yeah, I think Gus Edwards more than likely. I think this is going to be kind of a comeback game for him. But I think Derrick Henry is going to show up and show out. I mean, as he always does. I think this could be a running matchup for them between the two teams. And just personally, I just feel like Baltimore has the better rushing, even with Lamar Jackson. And like you said, the lost playmakers there for Los Angeles, Baltimore. I'm taking them.
All right, Nathan.
I don't trust. Like you said, the Chargers just lost everybody, and it's kind of in a rebuild stage. And Harbaugh's coming in; he's got to rebuild up that football team. Give me a win here for the Ravens.
Okay, next one. We are going to Philadelphia. I don't love this matchup for them, and I'll have you know right now, after 12 weeks, we have this team currently 10-2. Their over/underline set at 11.5. So I'm honestly loving this over for them. But Philadelphia, they are at home facing this Philadelphia team. If they're going to lose one of these games, it's probably going to be versus this Philadelphia team. They match up. This is going to be a very good game, and I'm very excited to watch it. I'm going to go ahead and mark this one in my calendar. But because of how many wins we've already issued out, I think I'm going to go ahead and issue the loss out here. They match up very well. I think this is going to be a one-possession game. Who ends up with the ball last? Don't know yet. Right. Philadelphia, though, I'm giving them the win. Baltimore, the loss.
Yeah, for me, I just don't think the loss comes yet. I'm still going to go with the win here versus Philadelphia. It is still in Baltimore at home. I think they're on a nice roll here. I know they've won a bunch here in a row, but I still feel like versus this Philadelphia team, I think Baltimore's still the better team. And it's going to be at home. So I'm feeling comfortable with still rolling high with Baltimore.
Okay, Nathan, you are the tiebreaker. Win or loss?
I'm giving him a loss here. I think Jalen Hurts throws the football better than Lamar Jackson. I've never been sold on Lamar Jackson passing the football. All the time that the Ravens have been good and been Super Bowl contenders, they've had a really good run game. They got Derrick Henry with that. I think they'll struggle running the ball against the Eagles' defensive line and their linebackers. Then the Eagles kind of struggled towards the end of the year last year, but they got some free agent signings and they drafted decently. So look for that defense to be a little bit better this year. But I think this is where they lose. And I think it's because that I think that Jalen Hurts can throw the ball better than Lamar Jackson.
Fair enough. That's what I'm saying. And they match up very well. So majority does rule. They're giving them the loss there. So we are currently 10-3 heading into Baltimore's bye. Then they go to New York on very well rested legs. Hopefully everybody is healthy going to play in New York. I don't like this New York offense. I don't like this New York team at all. Like Daniel Jones coming off an ACL injury. He should be very good to go by this time, unless a setback, but assuming that everything goes well, he should be good to go. But I think that aspect of his game is going to take a little bit of a hit. I just think Baltimore is obviously the better team, offense, defense, everything else. So I'm giving Baltimore the win.
Yeah, New York. They're playing New York, so I'm going Baltimore. I'm not choosing New York. So, I would just say just what we've seen with them and constantly just being in this struggle bus. I don't think they made any improvements whatsoever this year, so I'm taking Baltimore all the way.
I'm going to disagree with you on improvement. They at least drafted a true wide receiver number one. I'll give them that.
They did, and they got
neighbors.
Elite neighbors, but I'm still giving the Baltimore the win here. It's hands down win.
Better team.
100%.
Yeah, better team. Pittsburgh, divisional opponent. Their second time facing them, this time at home. It is a Saturday matchup. So coming off of one less day of rest, I still think that they have the matchup. I can't believe anything with this Steelers team so far, especially versus this Baltimore team. So I'm giving Baltimore the win.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's just coming to visit. Yeah, Baltimore to win.
I love
Dalton
that.
pretty much summed it up. I'm going Baltimore with a win here as well.
I love it. So we're still at 3 losses. So right now we are 11-3 through, or no, we're not. What are we? Yeah, no, we are 12-3. We are 12-3 through 15 games. Looking at week number 17, then we travel to Houston. At Houston, I think Houston pulls out the win here.
Yeah, no, for me too. That's so when I was saying I didn't think they were going to lose to Philadelphia quite yet was because I had a feeling their win streak was going to end in Houston. That's where I thought it was going to end, was right there. I just think that CJ Stroud is too good. If he continues to up his game from what we saw last year, he will be an MVP type caliber quarterback. And what we've seen with DeMeco Ryans in his first year in the NFL, and what he's done to that team and the defense and the improvements they've had at the wide receiver position, I love this. So I think that Houston actually can be one of the better teams in the NFL, top 5 for sure, and I think they could be much better than the Baltimore Ravens this matchup late and playing at home. So I'm taking the Texans.
Houston is the number 1 seed in the NFC. Saying it right now, you heard
AFC?
it here, right here first. AFC. Sorry, I'm that tired. Yeah, Houston is the number 1 seed in the AFC. To what Dalton piggyback off what Dalton is, if Stroud steps his game up, can he though? Like, he had an MVP type season last year. Like, can you do much better than what he's already done? You know what I mean? Like,
it's crazy.
You already had a great year as NFL quarterback. I mean, you either just got to match your play or tank. I mean, he's now they know what to expect. You know what I mean? But no, I think this is a loss for Baltimore. I think Houston beats them.
Okay, I
think I love Stroud. I think Stroud could win MVP. I'm a big Stroud guy.
Everyone,
I love them. I love him.
Who hates him?
I say everybody I think wants to see the young guy succeed in an organization that has been so bad for nearly what feels like a decade. So I do agree with you there. So we're across the board, all losses. That brings us to 13-3 so far. I'm going to end the season with them having a loss here as well versus Cleveland. The only reason that I say that, sitting at 13-3, is there really much of a need to start your starters? You've already secured a playoff spot, one of the top spots in the AFC. Why do you need to start your starters in a divisional opponent versus a divisional opponent where this is going to probably be a very chippy game? I don't see it, so I suspect that they'll probably sit a lot of their starters. I give them the loss.
Yep, same. That's kind of what I was gonna say too. Is just there's no reason to win this one. It's not gonna matter much in their seeding at this point. So yeah, I think I'm gonna take this as a loss, and they're gonna let Cleveland kind of win this one.
I'm gonna do the same thing. I think this is a loss. I think they sit their starters, and I think Cleveland wins this game to get into the playoffs as the last seed in the AFC.
Got it. So that means that they're over under 11.5. We agreed that they would end 13-4, giving us a 1.5 point cushion, right? We're only looking for 12 wins. We got 13. We're rocking and rolling. Take the over if you're looking to bet on the Baltimore Ravens. Now, we'll just do one more team here. And that next team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. We talked about...
You would make it hard on us, wouldn't you? You son of a bitch.
Right? We talked about how hard they were to kind of judge. They just had Russell Wilson come in, Justin Fields come in. I know that all of the reports that we have seen is that Justin Fields is expected to be the backup. Russell Wilson is going to be the head honcho of this. Let Justin Fields kind of have that developmental year. Kind of sucks it's behind Russell Wilson. Although Russell Wilson has had a really good career, he's just had a significant downfall here recently. So
17, baby.
Yeah, right. With that said, though, let's try to pick up the pace with these. At Atlanta, so they're starting 3 of their first 4 games are on the road. It is versus Atlanta in week 1. I am giving them the loss.
Yep, I think they have the loss. Atlanta's too good. I definitely think that they can win their division. So I think that 100% this is going to be a tough team week 1, especially now you got Kirk Cousins there with all those weapons. You've got Arthur Smith out of there. Atlanta's going to be a totally different ball team. I think they're going to click and mesh super well the way that we all want them to the last couple of years. I think they absolutely will look like what we want them to be. So, yeah, I'm taking Steelers with the loss here.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a loss, too. I think the Falcons will be the dark horse, kind of like the Texans were last year. If we have any Falcons fans listening, I just want y'all to know you're about to find out exactly how good Kyle Pitts is for once now, and you're actually going to find out how good Drake London is.
Hey, not only Atlanta fans, but Kyle Pitts owners in fantasy football. Can I hear one for those in the back? Because I'm one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm holding on to him.
I think this is the year that you're going to find out how good those guys are.
Yeah.
And you're going to find out why Atlanta drafted those guys. The problem with Drake London and Kyle Pitts has been their quarterback play. Now you also got Bijan Robinson, so I'm excited to see what the Falcons do this year. You can't blame quarterback play. You have Kirk Cousins. He's shown that he's a good quarterback in the NFL. So I think we're about to see how good those guys really are. I'm excited to see it. But yeah, I'm giving the Steelers a loss here.
Got it. So clean sweep there with starting off the season with a loss on the road versus Atlanta. Then they have the benefit of the doubt traveling to Dalton's beloved Denver Broncos, facing versus them at home. I am giving them... Wow, this is a battle of the bads. I'm going to give them a loss. Give them a loss. I think Denver pulls this one out.
I'm going to say because it's at home for Denver as well, not because I'm biased, but also because I'm biased, I'm going to say it's Denver. So I just think that Denver's definitely going to pull this out. I think Mike Tomlin, and I think he's a great coach. I think I'm really hoping he goes over 500 in his season, but not against my team. So I'm going Denver.
I guess my vote doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go a win here because DJ says it's the bads versus bets. The Steelers still have a fantastic defense. But you can't count that out.
Well, so does Denver.
Well, yeah, but you can't.
I think
as I say, this team, these teams match up very well. Like they're a battle of the bads. Like they have a very similar offense and a very
I think the Steelers
similar
have
defense.
Better offensive weapons. Plus, you have Russell Wilson. He's proven to be good in the NFL. He just hasn't been good anywhere other than Seattle. But I think the Steelers defense rises up here. I think they get the win in Denver.
Well, Nathan, unfortunately, you were right. Your vote does not matter. So that now they are starting the season 1-1, majority rules.
And don't forget too that the Steelers,
not 1-1,
the Steelers now.
Oh,
have
and 2,
Arthur
my
Smith.
bad.
So don't forget about Arthur Smith there now too.
Yeah.
So
Don't forget that.
they're now one-dimensional.
Right? We saw that failure with Atlanta. So, anyways, though, yeah, 0-2. Thank you, Nathan. Week 3, their first home game is versus the Chargers. I think that this is actually where they pull out their first win. Another battle of the bads. Again, we had already mentioned how this Los Angeles Chargers team looks with all of their changes this offseason. So I don't really want to mention those again. But looking at this Steelers team, coming back to home, I think this is where Mike Tomlin gets his Steelers their first win of the season.
For me, they're going 0-3. I just think Justin Herbert, I know they're a bad team, but I think that's just where you're going to see how important it is to have a good quarterback and what a good quarterback can do when they're kind of evenly matched with, like, again, a battle of the bads again. I just think the good quarterback's going to pull through. Justin Herbert's going to figure it out. So I'm going 0-3 for the Steelers.
I'm going to give them a win here. I think their defense is going to win in this football game as well.
I agree. All right. So now they are 1-2, traveling their third away game in 4 weeks, going to Indianapolis. I don't love them.
It's a coin flip every week with the Steelers. It really is.
It is, and I think honestly, in like where it is with the coin flip, I'm almost partial to who is the home team. Kind of give them a slight edge, but this Indianapolis team, I do think I like their pieces a lot more. I like what they've done over the last couple of years. I hope Anthony Richardson is able to figure it out, get healthy, get comfortable playing within the NFL. And yes, he is playing a pretty tough Steelers defense, but it is going to be week 4 of the season. Hopefully he's kind of ironed out all the kinks. Because of that, I'm giving Indianapolis the win, meaning that the Steelers will have their third loss, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for me too, I'm just gonna go with Indianapolis on this one too. Anthony Richardson is a dog. I think if he can just figure things out, he could be honestly one of the better athletes in the NFL. If he can just make things click and mesh. We've seen it before at the collegiate level for him. I think he could be pretty sporadic when it comes to passing. However, if he can just use his legs and be multidimensional, I think he's gonna be very hard to stop. So and I think they also have some pretty good wide receivers there as well. So I'm gonna go with the Colts in this one.
I'm going to go with the Colts. Obviously, we're banking on Anthony Richardson being healthy and playing in this football game. If he's not playing in this football game, I could totally see it being the Steelers. But week 4, Richardson's going to be playing, hopefully, and I think they're going to be really good. They got 2 good wide receivers. They got 3 good wide receivers. They got Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson, who can run the RPO really well. With those 2 in the backfield, I think the Colts are going to win this football game.
All right. So that means that now they are 1-3 through 4 weeks. Then they really get their first true competition. Now we really get to see how the Steelers team is when they go home to face the Dallas Cowboys. Loss.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, do I even have to say anything?
Right.
We just move on. Let's just go.
yeah, you're not.
I don't think we have to waste a lot of time on that one. Loss. Then that means they're 1-4 through 5 weeks, going to face Las Vegas. I think that this is where they pull out their first road victory, or have a really good shot at pulling off their first road victory. I think that the Steelers defense matches up very well with that Raiders offense. The only true weapons that they have are Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, and that's kind of it. They lost Josh Jacobs.
They did draft Brock Bowers, though.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But it's just I don't trust the quarterback play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least they got Minshew. It's better than fucking.
Yeah, but Minshew's not even starting.
O'Connell.
I was about to say I think that they're giving O'Connell kind of the nod. But again, this is we're now 6 weeks in. We don't really know what it's going to be. Hopefully they're trying to figure it out. But that's the only thing. That's the question mark that it's hard for me to trust Las Vegas. Again, I think that these two teams mesh very well, but I will have to give my nod to the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I agree. I feel bad for Devontae Adams, man. That dude.
He wants to be a Raider for life, and that's a tough.
Well, they're paying him all that money to be financially stable for life. So
yeah.
Well, he got close to leaving last year, but that's just because the Josh McDaniels dumb fuck. But.
Well, anyways, though.
Yeah, this is a Steelers win for me.
Yeah. So now we're 2-4. Mike Tomlin, he needs 7 more wins through these last couple weeks. Can he get it? But that brings us to the New York Jets. I don't love it. I think the Jets win it easily. I don't think that that's even going to be a game.
Let's just hope that Aaron Rodgers can get past week 1. Actually, quarter 1.
Yeah.
So
Let's just hope he can get past the first drive.
Yeah. First snap. Let's, before let's see if we can get past the first snap. What snaps first, the ball or his leg?
God.
The excitement for that Monday
Over-under.
night game, dude. That excitement for that game, and then just tears his Achilles.
It's like
Just
NCAA
rip.
coming out and then just having to do a massive update.
Right.
Or your Xbox fries or your PlayStation fries. You can't play it.
Yeah, it's like wow.
Motherfucker.
I mean, that's kind of what we felt from that, But yeah, if Aaron Rodgers is there, absolutely.
It's a win.
If Aaron Rodgers is sitting out this game because they're like, oh, maybe we can win without him playing this week, then it's going to be a very close call. But I'm gonna say the Jets for sure. I'm just gonna say Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is gonna win versus the Steelers.
Okay, so
I think Rodgers still has MVP play in him. I was really excited to watch him with the Jets last year. Unfortunately, we saw about 3 plays.
Yeah, he's now going to be on a team where they can play complementary style football, where he has a good defense behind him, and he can lack a
defense.
That's what I'm saying. Now he can lack a little bit on his offensive side because his defense is now able to make stops, unlike most of his career whenever he was at Green Bay, and that team was very dependent upon Aaron Rodgers to go 300 plus, have 2 or 3 touchdowns. For us just to be like, oh, okay, we won by a field goal. Like, ugh.
Yeah, this is a loss for the Steelers.
Right, I agree. So anyways, 2-5 through 7. Then they travel. They're still at home versus the next New York team, but this time it is the Giants. Having a 1 day extra rest on this Monday night matchup right before they go right into their bye week. I'm going to give them, honestly, another loss.
Damn,
Really? I don't know. DJ might be the lone wolf on that one.
Yeah,
I just feel like their defense is pretty good for this offense. They've got Malik Neighbors, but like I said, Daniel Jones, unless he can use his legs like we've seen and become more of a Josh Allen, I just don't see it. I think the Steelers will have this one in the bag. I think Mike Tomlin's going to figure his shit out this week.
I think this is going to be like a 12-7 game. Like I think there will probably
be close.
I think there will be 1 touchdown scored. I don't know who's going to score it. The other team's going to kick 3 or 4 field goals, and that's going to be that 9-7, 12-7, one of those.
Oh, geez. And it's a Monday night. Come on.
Yeah.
We all know how that goes.
Wee.
It's going to be a field goal game.
I'm going to go a win here against the Giants. I think that defense is just going to be too much because, like I said, look, for the Steelers fans that are listening, guys, we think that y'all have a great football team. The one thing you lack is a quarterback, dude. That is it, man. That's what you're missing. That is and unfortunately in this day and age of football, that is the most important piece. You cannot, with the way that the NFL has gone lately, you cannot be a successful football team no matter the weapons you have if you do not have your star quarterback. So I think you'll have a good football team. I just don't know why you went Russell Wilson. But with all that being said, I think y'all beat the Giants, so I'm giving y'all a win here.
All right, so then that means majority rules. We are going to go ahead and give them the win, making them 3-5 through 8 weeks. They have the bye week on 9, bringing them to week 10, where they go to Washington to play Washington. And this one, believe it or not, loss for me.
God dang, boy.
I do not trust the Steelers team. Again,
I didn't trust them last year.
All we're talking about is the quarterback play. But like Dalton's saying, they just got Arthur Smith added to this team, right?
Yeah, that was fucking dumb.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think is really going to hurt them.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like they're going to become a very one-dimensional team. Arthur Smith though was able to figure it out. Right, he was able to figure it out as an offensive coordinator, but that was in Tennessee when they had Derrick Henry at the helm. That's obviously Najee Harris. Like that's not Derrick Henry, right? Went to the same schools, but that's not the same guy, right? So because of that, it's just very hard for me to believe in them. And I like this Washington. I think they have so much more talent than what Pittsburgh has to offer. They got Austin Eckler now a part of this team. So, I mean, their defense, I almost give the edge to Washington over Pittsburgh. So because of that, I'm giving them a loss, especially when they're on the road in Washington.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually gonna say that they're gonna lose this as well with the Commanders. I think people don't give them enough credit as they deserve. Jaden Daniels, I feel like is gonna be a decent quarterback. I don't think he's gonna be C.J. Stroud, but I think that he is a step up from what they've had in the past. And also, like, let's not forget there's Austin Eckler there, and you've got Terry McLaurin still, Jahan Dotson. But also, let's not forget. Also, if you're fantasy drafting this year and you have Christian McCaffrey going in your top 5, just make sure that there's a C McCaffrey and not an L McCaffrey, because his brother's now playing Luke McCaffrey. So make sure you're paying attention to when you're drafting this year, and don't draft his brother. So, but
Did you
I
make
think
that mistake, Dalton, in a mock draft or something?
well, I don't want to make that mistake in the real draft, and I just want to save all you guys the time and the energy and realizing what the heck he just did. So, but anyways, I think Luke McCaffrey could be decent as well too. I think he could be a piece in that offense. But like I said, I think they've got all their pieces. If Jaden Daniels can mesh well with this good crew that they've got there, I think the Commanders have done very, very well. I'd give them at least a B+ when it comes to building this team compared to last year. So I think they're going to do well, and they will get the win versus the Steelers this week.
Nathan?
My vote doesn't matter.
It doesn't. All right. So we're giving them the win. We're giving them the loss. Sorry. Washington gets the win there. Meaning.
Before your Steelers fans out there, I was giving y'all the win.
Oh, don't even sit here and kiss ass.
Cookie points.
Yeah. All right. They're now 3-6, though. Going to face Baltimore, that is a loss for me. They don't play well. I think we even said that was a loss. I think I had Baltimore sweeping when we did that, so we don't feel like we don't need to talk about that. We should agree on all of that as well, meaning that now they are 3-7. Then they do go face Cleveland on a short week. Sunday night game was versus Baltimore. Short week. Going to play in Cleveland on a Thursday night game. Loss.
Yeah. I'm not too confident in either one of these teams. Not at all. However, gosh, for me, I just think there's still too many weapons for Cleveland to not succeed. It doesn't make sense for me to not go with Cleveland here. Like I said, it's still bad quarterback play either way you look at it. But I think the weapons are there for Cleveland, so I'm going Steelers loss.
All right.
The Steelers loss.
All right. So now that's another loss. Then they go another road game to Cincinnati. I'm going another loss. Actually, let me look at the rest of their schedule. Cincinnati, loss. Cleveland, loss. Philadelphia, loss. Baltimore, loss. Kansas City, loss. Cincinnati again, loss. That may actually be one that may be the last game of the season. Maybe. You know what? I'll give them a win. Because Cincinnati may have found themselves in a playoff spot, and they may sit their starters. Very similar thing. So, you know what? I'll give them a win their last week of the season for me.
I give them at least one more win out of that, yeah. I'd say out of the rest of those seasons, give them all losses and maybe one more win at most.
This is where I'm going to go, okay? I give them the loss to Cincinnati, but I think they beat Cleveland the second time. Cleveland has struggled with the Steelers in the past. Plus, it's they're playing Cleveland 2 times in 3 weeks. I think the Steelers will win at least one of them because their defense is still good. And I think they'll win one of the Cleveland games. They'll lose at Philly. They'll lose to Baltimore. They'll lose to Kansas City. And I think they'll beat Cincinnati because Cincinnati will be sitting.
Well, even with that being their ceiling, I feel like for Nathan, I don't even think they really even get that. But however, I do think that's in the realm of possibility. What Nathan said, I think that could very well happen. But even if that does happen, they're still under 9 games.
So much, still way under. I think that even we would almost have to give them, because we were at 3-8. I think we were at 3. Yeah, we were at 3-8 after the Cleveland game. So their first matchup. So they would almost have to win. How many games is that left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They would have to win all 6 games. That's not happening in order for them to hit their over. So I'm easily taking the under 8.5 for this Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Yeah, they're definitely losing to Philly. They're definitely losing to Baltimore, and they're losing to Kansas City. And I think they beat Cincinnati, but that's just because Cincinnati is sitting everybody this week.
Right. They're in order for them to hit their over, they would have to win a bunch of their top front games with Atlanta, Denver, Los Angeles, Indianapolis. Forget the Dallas game, Las Vegas. So they'd have to win a good chunk of it, 5 out of their first 6 games, Atlanta, Denver, Los Angeles, Indianapolis, Las Vegas. If they can pull 4 out of those 6 games, then there's a decent shot that they probably hit this over because they're on a little bit of a hot streak. But I still think that we've all agreed that there's little to believe in this Pittsburgh Steelers team.
AKA DJ is telling you that any draft, stay away from Steelers players.
No,
Najee.
Smith. I'm taking Najee Harris or Jalen Warren.
Yeah,
I'm taking Najee Harris number 1.
I meant receivers.
I'm taking Najee Harris number 1 and Jalen Warren number 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's honestly it. George Pickens, staying away from him. I love Pat Freiermuth. Don't. I would probably stay away, though. He's big time risk. Big time risk.
By the way, I'm joking about taking them 1 and 2 overall, but for real, though, I think their stock has definitely risen without a doubt with Arthur Smith. But yes, stay away from all receivers, stay away from the quarterbacks. Just take the running backs for Pittsburgh, if anything, for your fantasy teams.
So, fellas, what a segue, though. So now we are done talking about the NFL in a sense, but we were just recently talking about fantasy football. So that's what we're going to be talking about now is which wide receiver to be taking. We have 3 different pairs that I will be showing you. I've tried to place them up and kind of where their ADPs are at. So you can see here, starting on the left with Jalen Warren, you can see all of his stats, targets, receptions, yards, and touchdowns. That does include both rushing and receiving. Total touchdowns scored throughout 2023.
I think you meant Jalen Waddle, by the way.
What did I say?
Warren.
My bad. Dalton just said that. That was on my head. So Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith facing off versus this. Their ADP for the 2024 season are very identical. Jalen Waddle going at number 19 in PPR leagues, number 19 overall, and that number 19 wide receiver, where Devonta Smith is going at 26.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did Jalen Waddle miss any games last year?
I don't think so. I think he was healthy from what I remember.
You know what? Jalen Waddle is the number 1 wide receiver on any other freaking team in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's fair. 104 targets. Yeah. I mean,
as the wide receiver number 2.
But
right.
do you know whose game he replicates perfectly to the dot?
Who?
His fucking teammates. Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
He is fast as well. But, I mean, Devonta Smith, 112 targets as wide receiver number 2 as well.
Right. And a very, what people would probably say is kind of a run-heavy
I don't think you
offense.
can go wrong, honestly. I don't think it really matters. I don't think you can go wrong. You can't. It's a coin flip. It's who do you like more? Me, personally, I always look at wide receiver 1s and attitudes. A.J. Brown can throw fits every now and then again and complain about not getting the ball enough to Jalen. So, Jalen will throw the ball to him a little bit more to keep him happy, where Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins, they kind of just spread the ball out and throw it to whoever is open. But to me, it's really a coin flip. You can't go wrong with either one of these guys. You can't.
And Nathan, I'm actually going to disagree with you because I think that the biggest discrepancy that you can take between these two guys and what you need to consider whenever it comes to drafting one of these two, and I'm talking about if you're looking to add a wide receiver on your team, Nathan, I'm not trying to discount what you said. I think that both of these guys are likely to finish within a top 10 wide receiver rankings by the end of the year. How much can you really complain? But where I'm making the argument on which one I would pick over the other, I'm taking Devonta Smith. And it's simply because Jalen Waddle and the Miami Dolphins schedule, whenever it comes to the playoff season, weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, starting off, the defenses that they face, New York Jets, week 14. Then they go Texans. Then they go 49ers. Then they go Cleveland Browns. That is a very difficult stretch when you need your star players, your top wide receivers to pull out for you in these fantasy championships, in these fantasy playoffs. Jalen Waddle is going to have to do a lot of work every single week in your fantasy playoffs. That's going to be a very difficult task to take. So because of that, I feel much more confident taking Devontae Smith, and he has a lower ADP. So I know that that's kind of a big jump, but if you're looking at a wide receiver and you're contemplating between these two, in my opinion, take Devontae Smith over Jalen Waddle, and it's simply because of his schedule.
You're right, but 98% of the defensive coordinators are going to be playing it for Tyreek Hill. They'd rather double cover Tyreek Hill and leave Waddle one-on-one.
No, and I mean you're right. I mean, I would.
That's why I think even in those stretch of those games in the playoffs, I still think Waddle's going to get a lot of one-on-one looks.
Yes, I mean he very well could, but it's also I think it's going to be tough to score on those defenses. Like those are going to be the games where this Miami team isn't going to be scoring these low 30s, high 30s, maybe even low 40-point games, right? They may walk out of that game with 21 to 24 points. And did Jalen Waddle catch a touchdown? Not that his play is touchdown dependent, but Devontae Smith, right? We just saw him beat Jalen Waddle in targets, in receptions, in yards, and in touchdowns, obviously meaning that he beat him in overall fantasy points. Why is he getting drafted lower than him this year? I have no idea, right? We obviously saw that he outperformed him this entire last year, and Jalen Waddle has the tougher schedule.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, too, that, Devontae Smith is playing in the NFC East, too. I mean, he's going to face the Cowboys twice, and the Commanders do have a pretty tough defense in themselves as well. New York Giants, you never know what you're going to get. But, I just feel like he is going to have some pretty tough matchups as well. So I do think it goes both ways. However, though, for me, I'm gonna take the Alabama wide receiver here. Either way we look at it. So, but for me, I'm going with Jalen Waddle.
You set us up for that one, DJ, you fucker.
But yeah, I'm going with Jalen Waddle on this one. He's just one of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL, and like I said, his skill set's just so similar to Tyreek Hill, and just not being such a physical receiver as him. But he has had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons with over 4 touchdowns in each, despite playing alongside Tyreek Hill and having a mid-range quarterback at best. So I think Tua is better than mid-range, but he's not technically. I wouldn't say that he's a top 5 quarterback. Even I think he hangs around maybe in the top 10, but even then, Tua throws the ball upwards of 40 to 45 times a game, which I feel gives plenty of opportunities for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So, and also let's not forget too that Devontae Smith does play behind AJ Brown, so they do play behind 2 wide receiver ones. When we could argue that both Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith are wide receiver ones on other teams, they can be, but AJ Brown is in his prime, and he's recently just signed a lucrative 3-year, $96 million contract, and that now puts him just over, as having $32 million a year. I think that he just now broke that record for wide receivers. So I do think that they do see AJ Brown as being much more of an option when Jalen Hurts does throw it. I mean, he's so multidimensional too. To add to that, like, he is going to run the ball. I just don't see Tua run the ball as much. So you're going to see much more play from Jalen Hurts, where that kind of takes away from the value for me for that the wide receiver position. And if he's not going to throw to AJ Brown, then maybe Devontae Smith does have those options. But like I said,
he's also got Goddard to throw the ball to as well.
Right. And Tyreek Hill's nearing 31 years old and with 2 years left on his contract. So I do think that Jalen Waddle is going to be a primary target this year, but if not this year, next year, absolutely. I just feel like they're slowly going to work Jalen Waddle and trying to make him their wide receiver one in the future.
Before we move on, can we all three agree, looking at this picture, how the fuck is Devontae Smith not broke his leg?
He does got some chicken legs, but I think that's,
God almighty, son. I mean, take one hit, that motherfucker gonna snap.
Hey, he's taking a lot of hits, boy.
He's the Grim Reaper, baby.
You put a helmet on that leg, I guarantee you that motherfucker gonna snap.
Nathan, the thing is, I want you to chase this man and try to put a helmet on that leg. That boy is quick.
I mean, I'm not saying I can fucking catch him.
Jump on his back, boy.
All right, that's too far.
Yeah, ask DJ about that. Yeah,
that's too far.
I caught your skinny ass, didn't I, fucker?
ACL.
All right.
Made you tear your ACL, huh?
Is that a flex? Are you flexing on me right now?
I'm flexing on you right now.
This is too far. This is where I draw the line. All right. Anyways, though, that's where we pick it. Dalton Nathan leaning more towards Jalen Waddle. I'm taking Devontae Smith. But we have our next pair, Jamison Williams and Jacoby Myers. I kind of hinted at Jacoby Myers a little bit. Jamison Williams, we didn't really see him play the entire season this last year. So because of that, we obviously saw his numbers go down, but we are trying to match it to where their ADP is currently a little bit more matched, right? We see Jacoby Myers being drafted currently at 111, which is 15 spots higher than where Jamison Williams is currently being drafted at 126. Now, if you're asking me which way I am leaning a little bit, this is tough for me, and I think that that's kind of the purpose of this conversation. But I am actually going to lead more towards Jacoby Myers. I don't love this Raiders offense, but because of Josh Jacobs leaving in free agency, that leaves a lot to be kind of taken, right? This offense is now, I feel like, going to have to be a lot more dependent upon the pass, and Jacoby Myers is clearly wide receiver number 2. I know that, Nathan, you had mentioned they drafted Brock Bowers. He is joining this offense. He's going to be such a dominant and physical presence in this offense, but I don't think that necessarily takes away from Jacoby Myers' games. If anything, I think that adds to his game, right? That's going to leave him in more of these isolated one-on-one situations with them double teaming Devontae Adams. So because of that, that's where I'm going with that. Jamison Williams, what I got last year from him was boomer bust, right? He got 42 targets. He started to heat up a little bit. He is a very explosive wide receiver, but he's competing with Amon-Ra St. Brown and this entire Lions offense. I don't necessarily love him. I know that he's the wide receiver 2 in this offense. We haven't seen a fully healthy season from him. So because of that, I'm leaning more towards Jacoby Myers in this. He's obviously being drafted higher as well by 15 spots. I like him in this position.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Jacoby Myers. I think this is the year where we're going to see a full year out of Jameson Williams. We're going to see what he's going to be do. I like the quarterback better in Detroit. I like the quarterback play better in Detroit. I think Jameson Williams is going to have a much, much better year than what he had in 2023. I think he's going to get a lot more targets, a lot more yards, a lot more receptions. And he's going to be their deep ball guy. So I think he's going to have a way better year than he did last year. We just want to see a little bit more consistency out of Jameson Williams. But this will, if I'm not mistaken, this year will be his first full year in the NFL. So this is going to be the year to where we see kind of how he's going to play in the role in Detroit offense. I think he's going to be a lot better. But I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers because with their first round pick, they invested in their pass game. So it seems to me that they're going to be ready to air the ball out and throw the ball. Like DJ mentioned, they're going to try to double team Devontae Adams, and as how big as Brock Bowers are, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to double team him as well. They leave a lot of one-on-ones for Jacoby Myers. So I would personally go Jacoby Myers, but we talk about this next year, depending on how Jameson Williams does, I could lean the other way because of the quarterback play in Detroit. But like I said, I just want to see a little bit more consistency out of Jameson Williams. But then again, it's kind of hard to ask for that if he hasn't played a full year in the NFL yet. And this will be the year to see how good he is and how well he's going to fit in the Detroit offensive scheme. But I'm still going Myers.
Yeah, I think we're gonna make this a dirty 30. I'm going with Jacoby Myers in this one as well. For me, Jamison Williams is a great player. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. And in all honesty, I think that he could be a better wide receiver than Jacoby Myers, just overall. But he's just too much of a big play, boom or bust player for me. I mean, I feel like he could go out there and put 20 points up for you in 2 plays. But I feel like 2 plays is all he's going to get. I mean, you never know. I don't think they're going to use Jamison Williams with all the talent that's surrounded there. Jacoby Myers does have a lot of talent around him as well, especially with Brock Bowers coming in, Devontae Smith and whatnot. But however, I just think Jacoby Myers, even with Devontae Smith there and having, who was it? The running back that was there last year, now with the Packers.
Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, thank you. Yes, with Josh Jacobs there in the past catching abilities that he's had, Jacoby Myers still was fairly successful. I mean, he averaged at least 10 fantasy points per game in PPR formats, and not to forget, he also got up to around 15 or 20 as a ceiling. That's because his targets were still there, and he's a great pass catcher. I mean, he does it. He has very limited drops. I feel like he's a very reliable option, and like we were saying, I feel like Jameson Williams does have the better quarterback in this situation. I do feel like they're on very similar teams when it comes to the talent that surrounds them. However, I feel like Jacoby Myers just has more value just because he has solidified his role in this offense, and I feel like he is going to get you at least 5 to 6 targets per game, and which could turn you out at least 10 fantasy points again this year. So I'm going Jacoby Myers just because he's the safer floor option for me, and I don't like boom or bust plays every week.
I agree. And then that's the other thing that I wanted to mention as well as the weapons within Detroit. I know I mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown, but then it was also Sam Laporta. Like, I think that these offenses align quite similarly, and the only other edge that obviously Detroit has is the quarterback play. I'm giving Jared Goff that edge over whatever quarterback is deciding to start for this Raiders offense because we don't really quite know at this moment. So it's just, I don't know. I really just trust Jacoby Myers, even with the lack of quarterback play that we saw in that offense last year. And he had a very successful season, right? 147 fantasy score points, right?
And don't forget, he's never had a good quarterback. Coming from the Patriots and Mac Jones, he's never played with a good quarterback, and he's consistently been a great value piece to every team he's played on. So year after year. So just imagine if he does get the shoe in there, the mustache, and think that if he is somewhat the best quarterback that Jacoby Myers has had to date, if he does come in over O'Connell, dude, Jacoby Myers could be, could be the clouds, bro. Like, he could be soaring. So, especially as a wide receiver 2 or 3 on your team. So I think he'd be a great addition to you.
100%. 100%. So anyways, so that brings us to our last duo that we have, and that is kind of going with the old Bucks here. Chris Godwin for the Bucks and DeAndre Hopkins for Tennessee. Now, this may be a little bit of a hot take in itself because some people might say, well, wait, I thought this was wide receiver 2s. Would DeAndre Hopkins not be considered wide receiver 1? The reason that I have listed him as a wide receiver 2 is because Calvin Ridley has now just recently joined this Tennessee Titans team. Calvin Ridley is being drafted over his fellow teammate DeAndre Hopkins in fantasy drafts. So because of that, that's why I listed DeAndre Hopkins here. Chris Godwin in 2024 ADPs. He's currently getting drafted at 64, which is 14 spots higher than DeAndre Hopkins. Looking at their seasons last year, almost identical outside of touchdowns, right? 130 targets to 137, 83 receptions to 75, both right around 1,000 yards receiving. Then we're looking at the touchdowns. Chris Godwin, 3 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins, 7 touchdowns, which is why there was such a big discrepancy in these fantasy score points. But which way am I leaning towards? I'm leaning towards DeAndre Hopkins. I think that I easily take DeAndre Hopkins over Chris Godwin, even 14 spots lower. You could even probably end up with 2, but if you're asking me if both of these players are on the board, I do feel more confident in taking DeAndre Hopkins than I do over Chris Godwin. The reason is because I think that this Tennessee offense is built more around the pass. We saw them, they're a little bit more devoted to passing this ball. They traded away Derrick Henry. They brought in Calvin Ridley as kind of that offensive explosive power wide receiver position. So I think that this team is built more so to pass. We saw him have 137 targets. I think that number definitely takes a little bit of hit. He's going to have some regression, but I think that his touchdown numbers are going to be up, and I think that his reception numbers are going to stay about the same. We see that he really only caught roughly 50% of the targets thrown his way, right? 75 receptions for 137 targets. He doesn't need all of those targets to match the receptions number, to match the yardage line, and I think he still has those touchdown numbers there. Chris Godwin, even if he has the same season, it's not as good. So I think that bringing in Calvin Ridley to this offense, it only takes off that added pressure from DeAndre Hopkins, and I am all on board for it. This Tennessee team is going to be very different, and I'm all here for it. I love it. Give me DeAndre Hopkins over Chris Godwin.
I think I'm going to go the same route. I think that plus, towards once Will Levis kind of came in and took over, him and Hawkins kind of got a connection going. We all know how important that is in fantasy football, whether or in just football in general, of how close knit of a connection you can have with your wide receiver one. Even bringing in Calvin Ridley, I still think that D Hop will be the number one target for Will Levis. His targets might go down, but his receptions, like you said, will probably stay the same. I still think he'll hit over 1,000 yards, but when it comes to in the red zone and looking for touchdowns, I do believe that'll be DeAndre Hopkins, because Mike Evans will be the red zone target for the Buccaneers for this upcoming year, because like I said before, that man's still putting up 1,000 yards a year. So that's why I like D Hop. Plus, we saw Ridley last year in Jacksonville. We all had high hopes, and we saw how that turned out. So I'm still going to lean towards D Hop being the wide receiver one for the Tennessee Titans. And so that's why I would go D Hop over Chris Godwin.
For me, guys, I think I'm going to be the lone wolf on this one, and I'm going Chris Godwin. And I'm going to only say this because when I think of Baker Mayfield, I think of two other quarterbacks. I think of Ryan Fitzmagic, and I think of Jameis Winston. All three of them similarities are arms of steel. I just feel like you're gonna get, especially if they're down and they need to win. Baker Mayfield will throw the ball fucking 50 times. I swear to God. I just feel like that's what he'll do to win a game. And I feel like Chris Godwin, if that happens, and I feel like it happens more times than not, where they're relying on Baker Mayfield's arm. And I do agree that Will Levis, they are becoming more of a passing team there in Tennessee, but I just feel like the Buccaneers are too. And I feel like Chris Godwin, although Mike Evans is there, Chris Godwin has shown that he can still succeed being a wide receiver two there for Tampa. And DeAndre Hopkins, the only thing that concerns me is that I feel like he has one of the worst ratios in the NFL when it comes to targets and receptions. Only once, if you look at the Sleeper app last year, only once is it green when you're looking at his receptions to his targets. So to me, there's too many times where he's got 10, 11, 12 targets, but he's only got 3 receptions. I don't think that's DeAndre Hopkins' fault. I think that a lot of that's just Will Levis. Unless Will Levis can make that jump forward and play better ball and be more accurate, I know he's got a beautiful deep ball, but if he can just be a better, more accurate short to intermediate game and hitting his deep balls too, I think that you could see better production there with DeAndre Hopkins. However, now, like you said, DJ, with Calvin Ridley now coming in and being the type of receiver that and route runner that we know he can be, and is going to eat up some of that volume and some of those targets from DeAndre Hopkins, if we see similar quarterback play like we've seen from Will Levis, I just feel like now the targets are going to drop and the receptions may stay the same in the ratio. So I don't like that. That scares me beyond wicked. So I'm going to stay away from DeAndre Hopkins by all means this year. And I'm taking Chris Godwin 10 times out of 10 if I'm comparing these two.
Couldn't agree less. But that's okay. That's the purpose of this discussion, right? And I just think that, again, I think it's the quarterback play. I think that Will Levis, like you were saying, I think that he is able to take the jump. Even if he's not able to take the jump, so what? His ratio stays the same. His targets go down. I still think that he's going to be a heavy touchdown guy. I think 7 touchdowns is quite low for him. I think that we're easily going to see double-digit touchdowns from him. Like, he's still the go up and get it type receiver, and he's going to be a big red zone threat. I don't think that that's going away. We saw a lot of his touchdowns come, I believe, later on in the season once Will Levis starts to pick it up and get this Tennessee offense rocking and rolling. And I think that that's kind of where we're at. So sure, let his receptions go down. That's fine.
I think Levis makes the turn this year and plays.
But just remember too, like you said, with all these passes, 3 screens and 30 yards for Godwin equals one touchdown for DeAndre Hopkins, and he's not going to score every game. I think it's more realistic to have 3 screens and 30 reception yards for Chris Godwin every week than it is for DeAndre Hopkins to have a touchdown. So that's where I'm at. I just feel like the receptions are going to be there, and I feel like he can easily match that week after week after week, unless DeAndre Hopkins, for me, like I said, I'm not a boom and bust guy. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a fantastic receiver, but touchdown dependent's not me. I can't do it.
But I don't think he's going to be touchdown dependent, because what these Titans fans need to realize is that you were run first for a very long time because of Derrick Henry, and y'all need to be ready for a change, because you are no longer a run first offense. You are going to see the Tennessee Titans spread the ball out and throw the ball. And I think that Will Levis is going to do really good in the offense this year. I think he's going to turn the corner and play much better football this year, because I think they're going to be able to spread the ball out a lot more and throw the ball, because like DJ said, they're investing in their pass game, so they're showing everybody like, hey, we don't have Derrick Henry. We are no longer run first. We're gonna be able to throw the ball well.
Yeah,
And the
fair
last,
enough. And I would say I would definitely be on board. I just want to see that ratio between his targets and his receptions. If I can see that improve, I'll definitely be on board. But as of right now, I just can't do it.
and see, the last point that I'll kind of make here is I don't think that we've seen the best of DeAndre Hopkins in this Tennessee offense. I think that this could only get better. And if it doesn't get better, he's going to be sitting around that 150 fantasy points mark like he did last year. Whether he drops in receptions, makes it up in touchdowns, whatever. I think that he's sitting around that 150 mark in fantasy points, give or take probably 10 to 15. I think he's somewhere within there. Whereas Chris Godwin in this Bucs offense, I don't see him doing more than 83 receptions and maybe 1,100 yards. Very similar. I think that where he could have improvement is his touchdowns as well. But I don't think that he ends with as many touchdowns as we see DeAndre Hopkins have. We saw, obviously, Chris Godwin, like I said, he mentioned he had higher reception totals than DeAndre Hopkins, but it's the touchdowns that were the difference, right? He had 4 more than what Chris Godwin has, and that's why Chris Godwin went at 126 fantasy points. Hopkins ended at 148. And that's just my biggest thing is I don't think that Hopkins capped out. I think Chris Godwin kind of did. We could maybe add 15 to 20 points more on his season total, and that's kind of it. Which even if we add 15 to 20 more, he still doesn't even surpass what DeAndre Hopkins has, and I still think that he has a little bit more left in his tank. But on the topics of quarterbacks, with all this Will Levis talk and how DeAndre Hopkins is going to be dependent, kind of ending on a little bit of a game here. And it's going to be draft these quarterbacks in order. So basically rank these quarterbacks 1 through 3. Which one
That's easy.
Do you feel most comfortable taking? Again, I tried to link them in. Sorry if I just kind of messed up your ears on that with hit my finger to it. But anyways, right? I tried to link these as 3 as close as possible. Jared Goff, his ADP in PPR league formats coming in at number 88, Justin Herbert 93, and Kirk Cousins 104. So all of them, as I mentioned, all very close, within 20 draft spots of one another, meaning that you're obviously going to likely just walk away with one of these guys. But which one do you feel the most comfortable taking? Dalton? Or actually, no, sorry, Nathan, you're very confident on this. Which way are you going?
I'm doing Kirk Chains first, dude. Come on now.
Okay, why are we so confident? I know you had mentioned it a little bit earlier.
Well, the offense. Look at the weapons that he has. Like this is going to be a very good Atlanta Falcons football team. And I don't think people are realizing how good it is. Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, look at the guys that he has to be able to get the ball to. And not only is Bijan Robinson a good running back, but he can catch the ball in the backfield very, very well. Now, overall quarterback play, the best quarterback, I believe, is Justin Herbert. Fantasy-wise, I'm going to go Kirk Cousins just because of the weapons that he has, and I think the Falcons are going to throw the ball a lot.
Yep, I think for me, yeah, I'm with Nathan. I'm taking Kirk Cousins 100%, 500%. I'm taking Kirk Cousins just because all the Falcons need is just a game manager, but Kirk Cousins is not a game manager. I think he's much more than that. I think he is your modern day Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Not as good as Tom Brady's GOAT, but I'm just saying he's much more than a game manager is all I'm trying to say.
Sit in the pocket and read the field and make the right throw.
That's all they need. And Kirk Cousins can 100% do that, and that's all they need.
And more. Yeah.
And what I'm saying is why I think he's better than just a game manager is because I think he manages the game very well, but he knows how to put his team in the best situation to win, and you can rely on his arm. 100%.
And he's a winner. He wants to be a winner.
He is, and I just think that this team is every bit of a quarterback's dream, and Kirk Cousins just happened to fall in it. And This defense is amazing. This running back is amazing. These wide receivers are amazing, and look what every great team has. There's a common factor. It's a tight end, and they got that in Kyle Pitts. Yep. So I think this is definitely going to be a Super Bowl contending team. I think they're going to go deep in playoffs for sure, and I think they have every chance of competing and winning the AFC
Yeah.
Championship
And
and going to the Super Bowl this
and
year.
second, I'm taking Goff. I think Goff is up there with Kirk Cousins. I really do. Goff, there was a lot of talk about Goff being traded, about Goff not getting this contract. Goff played well last year. Goff played extremely well, and I had him in fantasy, and he didn't let me down. He played extremely well, and I think Goff is going to be good fantasy quarterback this year. I think if you draft Goff, you're going to draft him as your starting quarterback. At least I would, because I was happy with his performance last year, and I think he's only going to get better. The Lions are only going to be better. Um, you know, Great tight end, two great running backs with Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, and good wide receivers, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, Goff has weapons too. And the third would be Herbert. And I hate to do that because I think Herbert is the most talented quarterback. I think he's overall the best quarterback. He ain't nobody to throw the fucking ball to, dude. I mean, he's probably sitting at home in his LA mansion right now going, fuck me, dude.
Yeah, and I do think that that's right, because looking at this team, like we've said multiple times, but it's only gotten worse for them. And Justin Herbert, even this last season, finished as quarterback number 17.
Look,
I think he's lucky to hit that.
When his contract runs out, he will not be a Charger.
Well, see, I don't know, because I think that what they're doing is good, because the way that they handled the draft, getting Joe Alt first, they needed to address that offensive line so bad. They needed to get rid of some of these older players with a lot cap casualties, with Austin Eckler and with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who was kind of the injury bug. Like, it obviously sucks because you had kind of a win now team, and now you've immediately shifted into a let's see how many games we can win, right? And that's the mindset that's kind of shifting. Justin Herbert's luckily young enough. I think that by the time this contract ends, Chargers would be dumb not to give him a max amount of money because they don't have anything else tied up with other players, right? So I think that he'll be there, but I do agree, Nathan, your rankings were spot on. And Dalton, I don't know if you went 1 through 3, but I'm going to go Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert. Kirk Cousins, everything that y'all have said with their potent offense. Arthur Smith is out. This is now going to be an offense that he can kind of command, take over, has a lot of weapons, has a really good defense behind him, can kind of play that complementary role of quarterback with a good defense. I think that their defense is going to help set him up in really good situations. And the last thing is really because if you take Jared Goff, then that means that you're obviously going to lose out on a position player because they're over a one-round difference. If you're looking at a 12-man league, Jared Goff at 88, it's 16, or sorry, what is that, 12? Yeah, 16 spots more is Kirk Cousins. So that's over a round's worth. So you could draft a better position player and get arguably the better quarterback in the same draft. So because of that, I would pass on Jared Goff, but then that leaves the conversation of who do I take, Jared Goff or Justin Herbert? This year, I take Jared Goff, and it's because of everything that y'all have just said as well. Who does Justin Herbert have to throw to? And I do think that they're going to put themselves in a position where they are going to have to throw the ball. I know everything that we've heard about this Chargers team is, they're going to be a little bit more run heavy. They're going to be a little bit more run heavy. That idea is all fine and dandy until you're down 15 or 14 to 21 points in a game, and it's like, well, damn, I don't have anything else to do but pass it. I think Justin Herbert will find himself in that situation, but how long is once you essentially become one-dimensional, that doesn't always work out too well for you. Jared Goff has plenty of options to throw to. Amon-Ra St. Brown, as we mentioned, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, kind of that boomer bust guy that we had mentioned. He has a lot better pieces. I trust that offense. We saw him do very well with it. They're obviously committed to him, offering him a new contract and everything else.
Yeah. So actually, funny enough, my rankings are the exact same. I think we all can come to an agreement on that. Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert. I mean, there's no point in wasting my air and repeating everything that you guys just said, but yeah, it's all coming down to the weapons and the usage and just Justin Herbert not really being on the offensive scheme that we know he's about to have with Jim Harbaugh. So Kirk Cousins for sure, 100%. One, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert.
Hang in there, Charger fans.
Hey, you got a young team. You got some young studs. Wide receivers aren't that bad. It's just really just who you've got right now in your scheme. I mean, Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnson, Lad McConkey. I mean, you guys got some pretty good young, probably some of the youngest studs at the wide receiver position. I think they're fairly inexperienced for the most part, but I think they all have the potential to be some really good wide receivers. So I wouldn't lose complete hope of the Chargers in the future. Just hopefully they can get some things figured out being a run-first team there with Jim Harbaugh.
I just don't understand why they moved to LA. They do not have the fan base there, man.
They didn't, and it was kind of up for grabs between the Rams and the Chargers, and the Rams were the more dominant team. So obviously,
even the Rams have a decent fan base, but it's not great either. When the 49ers can go and play there, it's a fucking home game for them.
Yeah, well, and then you see the Seattle, the Battlehawks, this XFL UFL. I don't even know the letters it is now because I feel like it's changed so many times. But the Seattle Battlehawks or St. Louis Battlehawks, my bad. They sell out every game. They're like one of the only teams that sell out every. So it's like, why did you take it? Why did you take a team from St. Louis and move them to LA when we've already got a team going to LA that has already been very open and honest that they're going to LA? Like, just stay put. Stay put. That is exactly what should have happened because they had such a solid fan base. So it's kind of unfortunate that it did happen that way.
They're dying to get an NFL team back there. They want it.
They do. So bad.
Yeah.
They do. But anyways, if you've made it to this point in the episode, thank you so much. We do greatly appreciate it. We are pushing that 2-hour mark. So I know that this has been a very long episode. If you do want shorter cut-ups, that is what we will be doing with these videos, are cutting up these sections and posting them as whole new videos. So if you're looking forward to those, make sure you're hitting the notification bell and getting notified when these videos are dropping, because as I mentioned, they will be coming out quite frequently. So make sure you are getting updated on your college football, NFL, and fantasy football updates. Let us know in the comments anything that we have talked about that you would like to kind of give your advice on, or any future upcoming ideas that you would want us to talk about. Drop those in the comments below. Make sure to follow us on our social media accounts as well. Those are linked in the description below. Anyways, though, appreciate you three, or us three, kind of getting all back together and doing this. It was a fantastic time.
Yeah, I always enjoy it. Yeah, but like DJ said, guys, let us know in the comments because we don't want to keep talking about boring shit. Just let us know. Like, let's spruce it up a little bit. Tell us the ingredients that you want us to talk about, and so that we can make this great home cooked meal for you guys, you know? So let us know if you like it, all right?
God.
Just tell me the truth. Just tell me.
Yep. See y'all next time. Ride the pine.